injuries, I'm unaware of.
Oh my God! Another plane just hit the, or something exploded, which I can't.
Oh my goodness!
Fireball.
And I've ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families.
And there, as you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing.
United Flight 93 crashes into western Pennsylvania.
There is a large fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been evacuated.
People are coming up the street running from the scene of this new explosion.
Good evening, I'm Monica Gale.
I'm Hugh Perkins. Tonight, an attack on America. Terrorists launched a quick, brutal assault using our own planes. 4 jetliners hijacked. 2 crashed into the World Trade Center, another into the Pentagon. The death toll could climb into the thousands. Fox News' Rick Loventhal begins our team coverage live in New York.
We're on Church Street in Lower Manhattan, just a few blocks north of what's left of the World Trade Center. The only lights on here tonight are powered by generators or batteries because electricity and gas service has been turned off in this area in an effort to prevent more fires. But fires are still burning here tonight, smoldering in the remains of the World Trade Center, also in a nearby hotel, and in the rubble of that 47-story tower that collapsed late this afternoon. Once the smoke clears, construction equipment that's been standing by will move in to begin the grisly task of clearing the rubble and recovering the bodies of the victims, and there are likely thousands of them. One of New York's Twin Towers is ripped and burning, the target of a hijacked jet. And then, minutes later, another airliner hits the second tower of the World Trade Center, and a storm of wreckage and debris rains on crowds of people below. Dozens of workers trapped on high floors in the 110-story buildings fear there is no hope and leap to their deaths. But the horror is not over. As the buildings are evacuated and hundreds of firefighters and rescue personnel tend to the injured and secure the scene, the first tower collapses in a cloud of smoke and rubble, trapping and killing many on the ground. And then, just as the smoke clears and police and emergency workers start returning to the scene, the second tower comes crashing down.
A big shaking, some of the ceilings collapsed. Looks like there was a fire in the elevator shafts, and they brought everyone down and started bringing everybody down the stairs.
So you came down from the 77th floor.
77th floor, down the stairs.
Meanwhile, 2 more hijacked planes are headed for high-profile targets. One hits the Pentagon, the other crashes and burns outside Pittsburgh, possibly headed for Camp David.
These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice.
Hours later, the fire still burns in the cratered remains of the World Trade Center. And a third building at the site, a 47-story tower, falls to earth. At least 400 firefighters reached the scene before this morning's collapse of that first tower. Half of them are feared dead. 78 police officers also missing and unaccounted for, and New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani says it could be at least 2 days before the total number of injured and dead can be determined. Of course, all this happening on a day that can never be forgotten, September 11th, also known as 9/11. Reporting live in New York City, Rick Leventhal, Fox News.
All right, thank you, Rick. The chaos unfolded up and down the East Coast within about an hour and a half. Here's a timeline now of the events today. At 8:45 this morning, an American Airlines plane crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. At 9:03, a United Airlines plane crashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Then at 9:43, another American Airlines plane crashes near the Pentagon just outside Washington, D.C. Minutes later, at 9:50, the North Tower of the World Trade Center collapses, and 10:29, the South Tower goes down as well. Minutes later, at 10:37, a United Airlines plane crashes in western Pennsylvania.
Well, this morning, none of us had any idea how catastrophic and tragic this day would be. After the first report of a plane crash into the Twin Towers, a witness spoke live with Fox News' Lucy Nolan and Alan Lee. Now watch what happens as he talked to the morning crew.
Thank you for joining us. You actually saw the plane fly into the building?
Yes, I was in the flower market on 28th and 6th Avenue, and a medium-sized jet. Oh my God! Another plane just hit the, or something exploded, which I can't.
Oh my goodness!
Fireball.
Another plane just flew in?
The first jet flew very low over Manhattan and then slammed into the top third and into the top third of the building, and now a large crowd of and another gigantic explosion just happened in the other building.
Now, up to that point, there was some belief that this was all a terrible accident, but the second crash left no doubt this was a terrorist attack.
Here at home, many of you are watching these horrific pictures, wondering if your loved ones survived these attacks. One Southfield woman is assuming the worst. She fears she lost her sister in the World Trade Center disaster. Tonight, Melanie Brooks has her story.
No, my baby sister, no. I can't even begin to imagine.
Sherry Gomez Preston watched on TV as a second plane smashed into the second tower of the World Trade Center. She didn't know at the time her sister had a new job there, working as a secretary on the top floors.
I'm playing everything over in my head, and it's, I'm in shock, and I can't even begin to think, what it must have been like for my sister up there. I mean, this is incredible. It's horrific.
While Sherry and her family have no official confirmation that Marison Gomez Perez, seen here in an old photo, did not survive, Sherry says she has to assume the worst, and she's seen quite a bit in her life. Sherry is a retired Detroit police officer and says she feels the shock and outrage that so many feel just magnified.
Innocent people, who never had a chance.
Melanie Brooks, Fox 2 News.
These will be days of agony for Sherry and so many other people. It may take a few days before anyone knows just who survived. If we learn anything about Marison Gomez Perez, we will of course let you know. But there is still hope tonight. Fox News Channel reporting that some people in the World Trade Center, as high up as the 90th floor, actually made it out alive.
Well, right now, grab a pen and some paper. If you have friends or family who work in the Pentagon, there are numbers that you can call for more information there. Now, the number for the Navy or the Marines is 1-877-663-6772. For the Air Force, 1-800-253-9276. The number for the Army, 1-800-984-8523. And American and United Airlines have also set up hotlines for the victims' families. For American Airlines, you can call 1-800-245-0999. For United, call 1-800-932-8555.
People all across the nation are mourning and praying, and right here in Metro Detroit, many prayer vigils were held tonight. This special service at the historic Trinity Lutheran Church in Detroit started with the national anthem. About 75 people gathered to pray, feeling powerless to do anything else. They were also looking for comfort and some kind of understanding.
It's hard to understand at times like this, but we all do the best we can, and our prayers go out to the people.
The pastor here, Dr. David Eberhard, says tragedies like these remind people just how vulnerable we are and how short life really is.
And a fund has been set up to help the victims of today's attacks and their families. The September 11th Fund will provide immediate support to emergency agencies like the Red Cross. You can send your donations in care of the United Way of New York City. That's 2 Park Avenue, New York, New York. The zip code is 10016. Donations are also being accepted at their website on the World Wide Web. That's www.uwnyc.org.
The question on everyone's mind after today's attacks on America, who is to blame? Who's responsible? U.S. intelligence officials are telling CNN good indications link these attacks to Osama bin Laden. The statement was based on information gathered today. Bin Laden is a fugitive terrorist being sheltered in Afghanistan. But a Pakistani newspaper with ties to bin Laden says he denied involvement through a written statement. That letter read, quote, "I am not involved in this actions in New York and Washington." He went on to write, quote, "But I support these actions. I see them as a reaction against the oppressor," end quote. Earlier today, President Bush assured the nation he would hunt down those responsible.
I have spoken to the Vice President. to the governor of New York, to the director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
We are told the president was taken to a strategic air command bunker in Nebraska as a security measure before he returned to Washington. And top leaders of Congress and key Bush administration officials were taken to an undisclosed location near Washington, D.C. for their safety.
This morning's attack on America left the nation's transportation system paralyzed. Minutes after the hijacked planes hit the World Trade Center, the FAA shut down airports nationwide for the first time ever. Greyhound canceled bus service to the Northeast. Amtrak also shut down. But the big question tonight is just how did 4 groups of hijackers get past airport security and overpower the pilots? Fox 2 is working for answers. We talked to a security expert, Ned Timmons, about what went wrong.
It was possibly some type of plastic weapon, possibly a plastic gun, a plastic cutting device. I would doubt seriously if the perpetrators would want to shoot up a cockpit. It would cause too much damage to the instrumentation. I don't think there's any way that the pilots of these American Airlines and these United Airlines would fly a loaded aircraft into one of our buildings. I think they were totally disabled or unconscious at the time of impact.
Timmons tells us that a well-trained terrorist could overpower a pilot in only seconds, and he says the only way the U.S. can prevent future attacks is to capture or kill the terrorist leaders and cut off their money supply.
Metro Detroit, as you know, has a large Arab American community, and tonight the community is reacting to these terrorist attacks. Fox 2's Sandra Ali has been in Dearborn all day. She joins us now live with more reaction. Sandra.
Well, Monica, take a look. The streets here are quiet tonight, but folks in this community are really in a lot of pain, not only because they're dealing with all this heartache, but also they're feeling a lot of heat. Like everyone else tonight, these Arabs glued to their sets watching developments unfold. But unlike everyone else, they're under a microscope as the world waits to find out exactly who's responsible for today's deadly attack.
Whatever the motivation, from our point of view, is not acceptable. There is no moral elements or moral color or religious justification for any act of terrorism at all.
A coalition of Arab American leaders meeting with Muslim groups at Heritage Manor in Dearborn tonight. They say they want the rest of the community to know pointing fingers will only make matters worse.
My recommendation for the neighborhood and for the whole nation is just be fair, be just, be patient, and be rational.
And tomorrow night there will be a candlelight vigil at 6:30 at the Islamic Institute of Knowledge. That's on Warren and Schaefer. We are live in Dearborn tonight. Sandra Ali, Fox 2 News.
All right, Sandra, thank you. The death toll could be in the thousands. It is impossible to know right now. Some reports say that 200 firefighters in New York City are presumed dead, 78 police officers now missing. The rescue workers are completely overwhelmed, and so are the hospitals. Some emergency workers say that they've seen more than 5,000 patients already. There's no telling yet how many more people on the ground were killed. It is assumed, though, that no one on the hijacked plane survived. Now, here is what is confirmed right now from the airlines. American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to L.A. that crashed into the World Trade Center had 92 people on board. United Airlines Flight 175 from Boston to Los Angeles also crashed into the other World Trade Center tower. There were 65 people on board that flight. And American Flight 77 from Washington to L.A. crashed into the Pentagon. There were 64 people on board there. And United Airlines Flight 93 from Newark to San Francisco crashed near Pittsburgh with 45 people on board. In all, that is 266 people killed.
The attack on America is creating a desperate need for blood. Metro Detroiters are showing amazing generosity by flocking to the Red Cross to donate blood. Fox 2's Eric Leaf is live at the Red Cross Center in Warren tonight. Eric?
Monica, the Red Cross here just closed up just a few minutes ago. They'll be back at it first thing tomorrow morning. But what we saw here today was really inspiring. Take a look at some of the videotape from earlier today. Metro Detroiters really stepping up. And this is something quite remarkable coming out of this tragedy. It is the American spirit and resolve. Thousands of Metro Detroiters, perhaps hundreds of thousands of Americans across the country giving blood today feeling as though it was their duty as American citizens. The need for blood, of course, is critical, and Americans knew it after witnessing today's terror. What they saw moved them into action.
It's very horrible. I'm just thankful that no one that I know was on any of the planes or in the building.
I hope whoever is responsible is found, brought to justice. You know, it's unbelievable. To quantify my anger is nearly impossible. It's so huge.
Well, hopefully Americans converting their anger into action and donating blood themselves. The way to do it is to call a 1-800 number. That number is 1-800-GIVE-LIFE. That is a number that you must call to set up an appointment with the Red Cross. You cannot just show up. They cannot handle that. They would be inundated with so many people coming. Now, we want to tell you about that number. That number will close down or shut down and no longer be in operation as of 10:30 tonight. However, it will be operational again first thing tomorrow morning, and that is the way to go. Call the number 1-800-GIVE-LIFE and set up an appointment. The Red Cross telling us that they will need blood over the next several days, that some blood can actually expire. So for all of the blood to come in at once would not necessarily be good. Over the next few days, come in and donate the blood. So far, we're told an estimate of up to 1,200 pints of blood in the Detroit metro area alone today. So a successful day, and as I said, inspiring to see so many people calling to action. We're live in Warren tonight. Eric Leaf, Fox 2 News.
All right, Eric, thank you. The country really coming together right now, but sadness and frustration gripping the nation's airports today. As we told you earlier, for the first time in history, the FAA shut down all air traffic nationwide. That left thousands stranded at Metro and turned the airport into a virtual ghost town. Fox News' Robin Schwartz has been there all day. She joins us now live. Robin.
And the Red Cross is bringing in cots and blankets tonight here at the airport. But as you just saw, virtually no one is left inside. Thankfully, they've all found places to stay for the night. Still, take a look at how things looked here at the airport earlier today. Bomb-sniffing dogs make their way through the airport terminals, part of the intensely heightened security here, while grounded passengers watch TV monitors in disbelief, trying to comprehend the day's events.
This is like someone declared war on us.
I just hope that the president acts quickly and whatever has to be done gets done.
It's about time to start taking action, and I'm 100% for retaliation.
Also unusual to see, airport monitors, normally jam-packed with flights, read canceled, delayed, or are just plain blank. No one is allowed past security without a ticket and proper ID. One pilot shared his thoughts on the hijackings and what goes through a pilot's mind in the cockpit.
If they gain access to the cockpit, you know, when you've got a gun or whatever to your head, I mean, you're going to, you know, we have to do what they say and protect the passengers on the airplane. But of course, we're not going to fly into a building and purposely, you know, kill more people or commit suicide. And that's why I firmly believe that these pilots were killed before this happened.
Okay. Now, that pilot did not want to be identified, but interesting to hear what he had to say. The FAA is saying it'll be at least noon tomorrow before they allow planes to fly again, possibly later than that. We'll have to wait till tomorrow to see what they decide. And also, U.S. mail is being affected by all of the grounded planes. Reporting live from Metro Airport tonight, I'm Robin Schwartz. Huel, back to you.
All right, Robin, thank you. Just to reiterate again, with some of the flights canceled at least through noon tomorrow, there could be some impact on your mail, at least mail coming in from out of town, but mail delivered in the local Metro Detroit area should be delivered on time.
The attack on America already being felt at the gas pump in a very big way. Prices have suddenly spiked. At some stations, we are seeing $5 a gallon. Problem solver Scott Lewis working for you tonight, live at 12 Mile and Shaner in Warren. Scott?
Monica, take a look at this. This is what's happening at gas stations all across Detroit tonight. People are flocking in to fill up their tanks. Prices are going up fast and expected to go higher probably by tomorrow. This station was selling regular for $1.65 a gallon this morning. Right now, it's $2 a gallon. And let me tell you, that's nothing compared to what was happening right across the street from here.
No, you're not seeing things. This Marathon station at 12 and Shaner was selling gas for $5 a gallon. When the problem solvers showed up, the price sign suddenly came down. The station closed, saying they'd run out of gas.
There's a lot of people in this neighborhood that may never want to come back and use the station again, and it's unfortunate for them. So they tried to take advantage of the situation.
Across town in Taylor, look at the long lines at this WOW gas station. People lining up to buy gas at $1.62 a gallon. a bargain before prices skyrocket.
I've heard reports on the radio that in other states prices are over $3 a gallon, and I really want to avoid that if possible.
The operator of this station says his cost for gasoline went up 15 cents a gallon just 3 hours after the Trade Center bombing.
Well, there's panic in the marketplace, and so what happens is oil companies are putting companies on allocation, the wholesalers. And so what we have is a tightening of supply.
And how about the guy selling for $5 a gallon? He claims he had customers coming in saying they were paying $7 a gallon. So he was actually giving them a deal.
It's all done, all right? Take care, guys.
I've talked to a lot of people tonight, and they are ticked off. They think the oil companies are taking advantage of this tragedy, raising prices. Now, we also talked with a spokesman for Attorney General Jennifer Granholm tonight. She says that they are aware of the price spikes. They expect to get a flood of complaints tomorrow, and the Attorney General's office will be investigating. This is Scott Lewis reporting live from Warren. Now let's go to my colleague Pallas Huppé in Dearborn Heights, who has more on the gas prices. Pallas?
Thanks, Scott. Well, not all stations are charging those prices that you were talking about. We're here at Michigan and Gully, just west of Telegraph, and on our way over, we saw several stations selling for about $1.69. Now, take a look at this price here. The Amoco here is selling $1.59 as the lowest price, and that is the lowest price by far. And if you can see, the line goes out into the street. Plenty of people here taking advantage of this situation. In fact, this man just pulled up to fill up his gas tank. And why are you here at 10:20 at night doing this?
Well, I feel that the crisis situation that has occurred, it is better for us to be prepared than not be prepared at all.
And you happy with the price that you're seeing here?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
What other prices have you seen out there?
$2.19 a gallon, and I've been watching the news all day, and there's reports that it may go as high as $5 a gallon. So I think I'm gonna get some gas now and gas up both of my cars.
Okay, thanks so much. And I've talked to a lot of people who think this might blow over in a few days, but until then, better safe than sorry. The folks at this gas station say they're choosing not to raise their prices because they don't want to take advantage of the situation. And one final word, ATM cards that you're using on these gas pumps, some of them moving a little bit slowly, the transaction, because of all the business that's out there. So don't be surprised, but we had heard reports they weren't going through, not happening here. Reporting live in Dearborn Heights, this is Pallas Huppé. Back to you, Huel.
All right, Pallas, thank you for that live report. You talked about it. Some Metro Detroiters heading to the ATM right now saying that they don't want to be caught in a crisis without cash. A steady stream of people stopped at this ATM today in Ferndale. Several cash seekers tell us they're taking the precaution of having cash on hand while they watch the aftermath of today's attacks.
Security reasons. You never know what's going to happen in America. You got all kinds of people coming in from different nations and everything, terrorists. So you never know when you're going to need money.
But so far, no word of any banks closing either today or tomorrow, but we are getting reports of some bank cards not working as quickly tonight.
And the Federal Reserve Board acting quickly and decisively today to send a message to people who want to take their money out of the bank. Fox 2 Money Man Murray Feldman has been working this part of the story all day for us. Murray?
Monica, the Fed announced early today that it will stand by to pump more money into our banking system. This to send a message to people like you and me that our money will be safe in the bank and we don't have to run out and grab it for so-called safekeepings. But also to send a message to the world's financial markets that it is still safe to hold U.S. stocks and U.S. dollars. You know, after the attacks today, investors dumped U.S. dollars out of fear. They sold them. That sent the value of our U.S. dollar down about 2%. The financial markets here in the United States were closed today. They'll be closed again tomorrow. Some are speculating it could be days before the stock markets reopen. There is concern that if they would open, there might be panic selling of stocks. That's what happened in Europe earlier today. Stocks fell about 7% on some European markets as word of the attack spread. Just a couple of hours ago, the New Zealand market opened for Wednesday trading. Stocks immediately went down 7 to 8%. Japan now is open. They opened late, but they're going to put limits on how far stocks can fall in Japan. And the Japanese market will suspend trading of all major U.S. companies, including Michigan-based Dow Chemical. They'll do this to maintain calm on the market. Dow Chemical is traded here in the U.S., but also on the Japanese market. Huel.
All right, Murray, Michigan today responding to the attacks in New York and Washington, D.C. Our Governor John Engler commenting on the terrorist attacks across America.
We grieve for the victims and pray for them and their families. We also pray for the firefighters, police officers, and other public safety personnel who are aiding in the rescue effort. I have the utmost confidence that President Bush and his administration will act quickly to offer comfort and assistance to the victims and to punish the villains who are responsible for this horrific crime.
Like many of us, Governor Engler says he was shocked, saddened, and is very angry. He urged people also not to panic. and suggested calling the Red Cross if you can offer any help.
And the headlines say America under attack. Tonight, cities around the country on alert with increased security measures in place. Many employees evacuated from buildings across the area and in downtown Detroit. Fox 2's Bill Gallagher live in Hart Plaza right now. Bill?
Monica, people who work in offices feel a special connection to the victims of these terrible terrorist attacks.
Are you guys all leaving work?
Yeah. Downtown Detroit offices were evacuated an hour after the terrorist attacks.
It's time for us to go. Why sit around like sitting ducks, you know?
At the General Motors Renaissance Center, a special feeling of vulnerability.
So sad for the terror that everyone gets to experience.
These people are killing themselves along with everybody else. It's terrible. I mean, and by this being one of the tallest buildings, we were like, oh my God, what's going on?
The friendly border with Canada looked like a scene from the Cold War as armed federal agents tightened security at the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel. The city took added measures to protect public buildings.
Cooperating with all federal, state, and local officials to maintain security and the safety of our citizens in all facilities that might be targeted by acts of terrorism.
Anybody see Danny leave the building today?
Downtown courts closed too as court staff worried about people here and the places of terror.
Having
April?
friends in New York, it's very difficult.
It'll be very difficult for people working in these downtown offices ever to take their safety for granted again. The latest word is all the downtown offices that were closed today, all public and private offices, are expected to reopen tomorrow. But of course, you can get the latest updates and information on Fox 2 News Morning. Reporting live from downtown Detroit, I'm Bill Gallagher. Huell, back to you.
Hi, Bill, thank you. Today's attacks had a ripple effect on the auto industry as well, shutting down the Big Three. Earlier today, Daimler Chrysler closed its headquarters in Auburn Hills, but employees should return to work tomorrow. At the Ford World headquarters in Dearborn, employees scrambled to evacuate. They were told to go home. Officials closing the executive offices and shutting down the second and third shifts for all North American operations. And General Motors closing its doors at its world headquarters in the Renaissance Center. Employees you see here streaming from the building caused a traffic jam on Jefferson Avenue. The GM says the Rinsen will be open tomorrow under much tighter security, but all workers should return to their jobs.
Of course, these attacks also shut down schools and businesses across Metro Detroit. Fox 2's Jennifer Hammond working for you. She has the most up-to-date list of what is open and what is closed tomorrow. Jen?
All right, thank you, Monica. Obviously, transportation around the nation, a big concern tonight. At this hour, Amtrak has told me that service has resumed after a temporary shutdown, although expect residual delays due to today's events. The railway plans to operate a regular weekday schedule on Wednesday and will add additional trains to New York City and Washington, D.C. Officials at Greyhound tell us that bus service is up and running here in Detroit. However, service has been put on hold in and out of New York City and Newark, New Jersey as well. Now, today's attacks shut down the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Instead of students, there were cancellation signs filling empty hallways. At this hour, we are still waiting on word whether or not a normal class schedule will resume tomorrow. Now, here's what we do know, that several area facilities will not reopen Wednesday. Wayne State University will be closed, along with St. Benedict Highland Park. The College for Creative Studies is also closed tomorrow, as well as the Detroit Hobby Club, which will be closed for the remainder of the week. Now, as Bill did mention earlier, all Michigan state courts and judicial branch agencies will resume normal schedules and operations tomorrow. This means all employees are directed to report for work, as well as jurors who have been called in as well. Back to you in the newsroom.
All right, Jen, thank you. We are getting late word across the wires just minutes ago. Mayor Rudolph Giuliani saying to reporters that there could be some people still alive in the rubble of the Trade Center buildings. We hope to have much more on that story later in the newscast. Again, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani in New York saying that some people may still be alive in the rubble of the Trade Center buildings. Right now, the attack on America, of course, canceling primaries in New York, but voters in Metro Detroit still cast their ballots. Dennis Archer speaking out this afternoon, reassuring residents that our city is safe. Right now, less focus right now on the race to replace Mayor Dennis Archer. Fox 2's Charles Pugh live in Detroit with our first results. Charles.
Well, Huell, they say that the show must go on here, and the show did in terms of Detroit voting. Let's start with Detroit mayor. The top two vote getters are, of course, the two that will go on to the general election on November 6th. Let's take a look. Kilpatrick is leading with now 69% of the votes tallied. He is at 50.5%. Gil Hill is following behind him at 34.5%, and Councilman Nicholas Hood is at a distant third with only about 8%. Let's take a look at the city council race. At this time, we can tell you that the 6 incumbents are all in the top 18. But it's pretty interesting because Sharon McPhail has joined them in the top 9, as well as Barbara Rose Collins, and also Kwame Kenyatta has joined them in the top 9. But again, all 6 incumbents are in the top 18 vote getters so far, with about 69% of the votes counted. Now let's switch gears and take you to Dearborn. An interesting race going on there with, of course, the former police chief, Ron Daziel, in the race for mayor. Mayor Guido is in the lead with 11,720 votes. And surprisingly, Abed Hamoud is in second with 3,609. So it appears that those are the two who will go into the general election. This is a final, in fact. The final results are all in Dearborn at Mayor Guido at 11,720, and then Abed Hamoud at 3,609. And then to the David J. special election. Right now, with 40% of those votes totaled, he is in third place behind Alan Sanborn and Sue Roca. David J. right now is in third place in that special election, and much has been said about what the tragedy in New York would do to this election. But at this time, election officials say that voter turnout is about 20%, which is about average. It's not low and it's not high. So people still turned out today, in Detroit at least, at about 20%, which is average for primary elections. I'm Charles Pugh reporting live. Now back to you. We'll see you.
All right, we'll check back with you shortly.
To get all this stuff to New York. By the truckload, bottled water, bags of D batteries, and flashlights too, all destined for New York.
I just feel bad, you know, and if I can help, whatever I can give, here I am.
With dozens just like her, the people of Metro Detroit lined up en masse to drop off supplies at the Oakland County Sheriff's Department.